Breaking news! The pressure is building in Chicago, and it's impossible to ignore. The seat of general manager Ryan Poles is getting hotter by the day after the latest breakdown of his time leading the Bears. Even with a fresh 3-year extension, the spotlight has never been this intense. Questions are flying. Is he really the man to turn this franchise around, or is Chicago stuck in the same cycle of disappointment? Before we dive deeper into the latest updates, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a big NFL story. Now, let's move on to the new news. Ryan Poles' run with the Bears has been anything but smooth. In 4 drafts, fans expected growth, but the results just haven't matched the hype. His roster moves, contract extensions, and high-profile signings have yet to deliver real change on the field. Even with 2 different head coaches under his watch, the struggles continue. The record speaks for itself, 15 wins and 38 losses. That's a tough reality for a team with one of the most passionate fan bases in football. And now, with expectations rising and frustration growing louder, the pressure on Poles is undeniable. Every move he makes from here on out could decide his future in Chicago. A 3-17 record against divisional rivals. That number alone tells you how far behind Chicago has fallen under Ryan Poles' leadership. Add to that, 36 draft picks, and not a single one has reached the Pro Bowl. For a franchise with such a rich history, those results are not just disappointing, they're unacceptable. Since taking over, Poles has finished in last place 3 out of 4 seasons. That's not just a slump, that's a pattern. And despite this track record, the Bears handed him a 3-year contract extension this past July, keeping him tied to the organization through 2029. The idea was to align his deal with head coach Ben Johnson's, but let's be honest, lining up contracts doesn't erase the failures. It doesn't erase the missed draft evaluations, the shaky signings, or the lack of talent development. 36 players brought in, yet none of them stand out as elite difference makers. Not one Pro Bowl appearance. Not one All-Pro. For a general manager, that is the ultimate indictment, the inability to identify and develop stars. Chicago fans aren't just frustrated, they're tired of waiting. And right now, Poles is running out of excuses. Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker were the 2 clear positives. If both can stay healthy, they have the talent to anchor this defense. But beyond those 2, the tape looks rough. The wide receiver pick labeled Jones has failed to become a consistent weapon. Braxton Jones at tackle? He's been exposed early and often. Dominique Robinson hasn't developed into a force. Zach Thomas didn't even make the 53-man roster. A handful of later picks are already off the roster or simply haven't produced. That means this draft, which was supposed to add depth and playmakers, largely didn't deliver. Too many selections were either busts or borderline maybes players who haven't earned a clear role. When your first big class produces only a couple of legitimate contributors, it's a glaring problem for the front office. And the worrying part is how obvious it looked on game day. Against Detroit, while veteran linemen recorded almost no pressures, Braxton Jones gave up 7 pressures himself. That kind of single-game performance exposes you instantly, not just one play, but a pattern of poor pass protection that puts the whole offense at risk. Bottom line, 2 meaningful hits and too many misses. That's not building a roster, that's papering over holes and hoping they don't show up on Sunday. Last game told the whole story. Braxton Jones gave up nearly 78% of the total pressures allowed by Chicago's offensive line. That's not a red flag, that's a siren. The Bears clearly have a left tackle problem, and it's only getting louder. Now let's turn to the 2023 draft. On paper, it started strong. Darnell Wright looks like a solid addition, and Javon Dexter Sr. has shown flashes of being a reliable piece in the trenches. But after that? Trouble. Tariq Stevenson has struggled badly. Opposing quarterbacks are putting up some of their best numbers when targeting him, and it's only been a couple of games. Zach Pickens? Already gone. Roscoe Johnson can't stay healthy and has been limited to short yardage flashes. Tyler Scott? Not even on the roster anymore. Noah Sewell looked shaky before the season began, and Terrell Smith's potential has been erased by injuries. Travis Bell never even stuck in the league. The numbers don't lie, out of 9 picks, only 2 are clear positives. The rest are either pushes or complete misses. That's a dangerous trend, because it means through 2 full drafts, Poles has hit on just 4 players out of his first 20 selections. Less than a quarter of his choices have panned out. And now, all eyes are on the 2024 class, the one headlined by Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, Kieran Amegadjie, Tory Taylor, and Austin Booker. Caleb is still a work in progress, showing glimpses but not yet the savior many hope for. Chicago's future might rest on whether this group finally breaks the cycle of wasted potential. Caleb Williams still hasn't reached that franchise-changing level yet. Rome Odunze has been the bright spot, showing he can become a real weapon. But Kieran Amegadjie was a healthy scratch this past weekend, a concerning sign for a rookie lineman. Tory Taylor hasn't looked like the punter who dominated last year, and Austin Booker remains a wait-and-see project. Out of this group, only one feels like a true hit right now, while the rest remain cloudy at best. And that's the alarming part. Ryan Poles has preached over and over again about building through the draft. But when you zoom out, what you see is nearly 20 picks that are either misses or players who haven't proven anything yet. That's a brutal track record for a GM whose entire philosophy centers on drafting talent. Even looking ahead at the 2025 class, the concerns continue. Coulson Loveland hasn't been utilized. Luther Burden, a receiver with high expectations, isn't being featured. Amegadjie was inactive. Shamar Turner didn't play. Ruben Hippolyte didn't see the field. Luke Newman hasn't been trusted for snaps. And Zaki Frazier is already sidelined for the season. So the question is simple but urgent: what exactly is Chicago doing with these draft picks? Year after year, players are brought in, but far too many never develop, never contribute, or never even see the field. And for a front office that promised to rebuild this team the right way, the reality is painting a much darker picture. 4 of those draft picks were top 100 selections, yet the Bears still aren't using them effectively. Some of that blame could fall on Ben Johnson for how he manages the roster on game day, but the larger issue is clear: the front office keeps bringing in talent that never develops. And here's the most damning statistic: 0 Pro Bowlers, 0 All-Pros from Ryan Poles drafts. Yes, the Pro Bowl isn't the gold standard it used to be, but recognition matters. It shows which players are rising above the pack. The only Chicago player to earn that kind of honor in recent years has been Jalen Johnson, and he wasn't even drafted by Poles. That credit belongs to Ryan Pace. Then come the trades, which only add fuel to the fire. The Chase Claypool deal was a disaster, a second-round pick spent on a wideout who couldn't stay healthy, clashed with coaches, and brought nothing but frustration. Then there was N'Keal Harry, a once-hyped prospect who gave the Bears one memorable catch before injuries buried his career. Another wasted pick. And the biggest swing? Keenan Allen. Chicago brought him in as a veteran presence, hoping he'd mentor Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze. Instead, the chemistry never clicked. He and DJ Moore never meshed, his connection with Odunze never took off, and after one mediocre season the experiment ended. The price? A 4th-round pick plus over $13 million in cap space for a receiver who had already left his Pro Bowl years behind him. When you stack it all together, the failed trades, the questionable draft classes, the lack of star talent, it's hard to point to a single move under Poles that truly reshaped this franchise. Even the blockbuster deal with the Carolina Panthers remains unsettled, a trade that so far hasn't paid off for either side. The truth is, Chicago still doesn't know what it has. DJ Moore hasn't produced at a Pro Bowl level. Tariq Stevenson continues to struggle. Javon Dexter has been solid, but Tory Taylor hasn't delivered what was expected. And then there's Caleb Williams, the face of the future, but right now, the verdict is still out. No one can say with confidence if he's the answer. On top of that, the signings and extensions raise even more questions. DJ Moore was handed a massive 4-year, $110 million deal. So far, the return hasn't matched the investment. Jalen Johnson looked like the best move Poles made, but his season was cut short by injury. Tremaine Edmunds was paid to be a difference maker, yet hasn't played at a Pro Bowl level. There have been some bright spots. Joe Thuney has been one of the stronger additions, proving to be dependable. But alongside that, we see costly disappointments. DeAndre Swift, a versatile playmaker with over 1,300 yards last season, isn't being used effectively. Jonah Jackson, given a 3-year, $48 million extension, hasn't lived up to the price tag and continues to battle inconsistency. Gerald Everett was brought in and then cut. Cole Kmet is being paid like a cornerstone, yet barely sees the ball. When you scan through the list, only two names, Jalen Johnson and Joe Thuney, are living up to expectations. Everyone else? Underperforming or underutilized. And for a team desperate to build a contender, that's a painful reality. And then there's Nate Davis, another major misstep. His contract turned into a heavy dead cap hit, and his play hasn't justified the investment. Moves like that weigh down a roster and leave the Bears with fewer options to build. What makes it worse is the talent Chicago passed on. Nick Chubb, who just flashed his power against Houston, could have been a perfect 1-2 punch in the backfield, yet the Bears worked him out twice and still didn't sign him. Zadarius Smith, a proven edge rusher, could have added much-needed pressure off the line, another opportunity missed. And Jadeveon Clowney? Signed with Dallas for just $6 million. Chicago had the chance, but never pulled the trigger. That's the recurring theme, hesitation. A lack of aggressiveness when bold moves are needed most. At this point, Ryan Poles will almost certainly finish out the season as general manager. But his seat isn't just warm anymore, it's burning. And if things spiral further, Kevin Warren won't hesitate to make the call. A conversation with Ben Johnson about the future could come sooner rather than later. The reality is simple: in the NFL, results speak louder than promises. And right now, Ryan Poles is running out of time, running out of excuses, and running out of chances.